Welcome students, this is Mrs. Walton here to teach you all about quotation marks. So let's take a look at this book called Sideways Stories from Wayside School. Here's some chapters from the book. You'll notice as you read books that you will see quotation marks there as well. This sentence that I circled, "I do not allow crying in the classroom," said Mrs. Gorf. So Mrs. Gorf is speaking, and as the reader, I know that she's speaking because they have these quotation marks, and those are the exact words coming out of her mouth. Let's look here. Todd is speaking on this one. "Turn us back into children," Todd demanded. So you'll notice we have quotation marks here and here. He's saying, "Turn us back into children," and we have this comma right here. You always have a comma when your quotation marks are at the beginning of your sentence and then a period at the end. So "turn us back into children," comma, Todd demanded, period. Same with this one. "No!" screamed Mrs. Gorf. So the word coming out of Mrs. Gorf's mouth was no, and she yelled it. So we have an exclamation point there, and of course our quotation marks. I know those are the exact words she's saying. You'll notice down here, "Where's Mrs. Gorf?" he asked. So quotation marks, and then our friend the question mark right there, because he's asked a question. He asked, "Where's Mrs. Gorf?" Last one from this book. And this says, "My name is Todd," said Todd. So Todd is speaking here, and the words coming out of his mouth here in quotation marks are "my name is Todd" with the comma right there. Comma is just a formality that you always need to kind of show that the speaker is done speaking with the quotation marks. This one says, "I don't want a banana," said Calvin. Same thing. Got your comma there, and Calvin's over here with the period. "Would you like a peanut?" asked Mrs. Jules. So she's asking a question. Our question mark, you'll notice, goes in between the last letter of the word and our quotation marks. It's in the quotation marks. It's held in the quotation marks because it's part of the question. So quotation marks, just to review, show the reader exactly what was said. So I know exactly what came out of Mrs. Jules's mouth and Calvin's mouth. And that's exactly what I said, the words coming out of a character's mouth. So let's try that with this book. So this is the book Ghosts, and we have this person right here. Her name is Kat, and she is speaking, and we can see in the bubble that she's speaking. It says, "Oh my gosh." So if I were to put that into our text here, I would write that I could say, "Kat yelled, comma, oh my gosh," exclamation point, quotation mark, because those are the words coming out of Kat's mouth. I could also say, "Oh my gosh," exclamation point, quotation mark, yelled Kat. So either way, it's the same thing. We're telling our reader what our character is saying. In this case of a graphic novel, we can see it in the bubble, but if I were to actually write this out, it would look like this, with our exclamation point and our quotation marks, because those are the words coming out of Kat's mouth. Let's try it with this one here. This character right here, her name is Maya. Maybe if I can write it. There we go. And this guy's name is Carlos. So let's take Maya's words and put them into a sentence with quotation marks. So she asks, "Do I drink this?" Maya asked, something like that. Got my quotation mark here and here. It's like they're housing or holding in what our character is saying. And then let's try it with Carlos's words. Carlos said, "No, just hold it," period, and then close quotation marks there. I put the period in the quotation marks there at the end. So let's try it with these. "I hate the cold," said Lily. So my quotation marks, the words coming out of Lily's mouth are "I hate the cold." So I'm going to put quotation marks here and here. And since it's not the end of the sentence, it's at the beginning, I have to put a comma right here. So those 3 things that you need. Let's say it said, Lily said, I hate the cold. So in this case, I need my comma here. It's like Lily said, and then we hear what she said, I hate the cold. Get what the words coming out of her mouth, put them into the quotation marks, and then our period here. So this one needed 4 things. But either way, you have your words that she's saying in those quotation marks. Let's try this one. Is it time for lunch yet? Asked Micah. So Micah's asking the question. The words coming out of Micah's mouth are, is it time for lunch yet? So we need that whole thing in quotation marks. And it's a question. He asked it. So that's how we know it's a question. And we're going to put our question mark right there in between our last letter of our word and our quotation mark. It's inside there. What if it said Micah asked, is it time for lunch yet? So we need that friend, our comma, and then we have our quotation marks here and here at the end of the sentence. Since it was a question, we put a question mark. Let's look at this one. I love school, yelled Elsie. So the words coming out of Elsie's mouth are I love school. So we're going to put them in our quotation marks. And since she yelled it, we know that that means an exclamation point. And then if it's the other way around, we have Elsie yelled, comma, I love school, exclamation point, close quotation marks. So the words coming out of the people's mouths are in our quotation marks. So here's a recap of everything we talked about. Let's pretend Mrs. Winward from our awesome librarian is talking. So the first one says, what book do you want? Asked Mrs. Winward. We have our quotation marks and our question mark and our period at the end. Mrs. Winward said, pick a book to read. So, comma, quotation mark, period inside. Mrs. Winward exclaimed, I love that book. So we have our quotation marks and our exclamation point on the inside. And then if the words come at the beginning, or what the character is saying or what the person is saying is at the beginning, like place your book in the box, said Mrs. Winward, you need your quotation marks and your comma. So use this to help you as you do your work. You can see all the different things that you need as you fill in your quotation marks. Maybe there's a question, maybe there isn't. Either way, you've got this.